Hi, welcome back. This is going to be a short but really important video because we are talking about self-worth. And I know in a relationship course you just think, okay, wait a minute, why are we talking about self-worth? I want you to remember if you saw the movie Jerry Maguire. If you didn't, that's okay, I'll explain it. But there's a scene in this movie with Tom Cruise and Renee Zellweger where they go into an elevator. And they are just going into an elevator to go somewhere else. That's not even part of the story. But while they're in the elevator, another couple comes in, and this couple is deaf. And they are using American Sign Language, and they're talking to each other, and they giggle, and they kiss, and then the doors open, and this couple leaves the elevator. And Tom Cruise says, "I wonder what they were saying." And Renee said, "My aunt taught me sign language," or something like that. They were talking about their love, and one of them said, "You complete me." It's a famous line. It has been used in wedding vows and movies and, comedy routines ever since, right? You complete me. When you have a high sense of self-worth, you hear that and you think, "Aw, that's very sweet." But if you have low self-worth, you hear that and you think, "Oh my gosh, I am incomplete without the other person. The other person, my partner, actually completes me." And that is a totally different level of understanding. So your self-worth really defines how you see your partner's role in your life. Now, there are copious amounts of resources for people who feel like they need to dive into their self-worth. But when you have low self-worth, you are the first one to kick yourself when you are down. You are the one to shame yourself. You are the one to say, "I was stupid. I'm not worthy. I don't deserve good things," before anybody else gets a chance to do it, right? So you do it first out of a protection mechanism that if you're already knocked down, nobody else can knock you down because you're already on the floor, right? And so we need to talk about your self-worth a little bit, because when you're in a love relationship and you have low feelings of self-worth, it really impacts your relationship. You are going to be in winter a lot. And there's two pieces I need to talk about here. One, if you have low self-worth because of past relationships that are not about your partner, you are carrying the boulders and the scars from previous relationships, and they are impacting your current relationship. Because if you had a past girlfriend, boyfriend, love partner who put you down or mocked you or shamed you or humiliated you in any way, you have that feeling of low self-worth that you are now bringing to your new relationship. So your partner could say something and you can automatically shut down, and they don't really understand what happened. They don't think what they said was in proportion to your response, right? And that could very well be true because you're carrying the scars from previous things, from previous experiences or hurts or traumas or anything like that. So I think it's important to kind of differentiate, where is your low self-worth living right now? If you have low self-worth because of your current partner, if your current partner is doing that kind of mocking, humiliating, shaming, controlling, manipulating, lying, betraying behavior, you are not in a healthy relationship. I'm sorry. And you need extra resources that go beyond the scope of my ability and my qualifications and this course. So please know, if you have a situation like that, you need to get some help. You need to get an outside perspective and some support to rebuild your self-worth and pull yourself out of that scenario. If your self-worth is from your childhood and it's been what your parents have taught you and it's what your teachers have taught you, there needs to be some healing there. So before we even dive into self-worth, we need to understand where it came from. Who were the people who told you you weren't good enough? Who were the people that told you you sucked? and you were dumb, or you weren't important, or you didn't matter, or your feelings were irrelevant, or you shouldn't even have those emotions. You're going to have to get a little bit messy in your own dark spaces and start pulling out the weeds and get to those root balls of what was planted in you. We know it's in your individual garden. If you have low self-worth, those seeds were planted in your individual garden. And if they're weeds and they're strong and they're noxious and they're aggressive weeds, absolutely they could spill over into the shared garden, and they could even climb over and go into your partner's garden. And if you have children, they can go into your children's garden too. So low self-worth is not something to just say, oh, I'm not going to deal with it today. We need to deal with it today. So I want you to think about where it came from. Go into that garden. Think of where it started, when it started, how it started, and ask yourself, is that true today? I work with some people who have their root ball as starting when they were 5 years old. And it has almost been 4.5 decades later, and they are still holding that as their truth. This goes beyond my ability, but I absolutely will suggest resources for people to go and unearth that root ball and remove it from their garden. You don't need to pay a price for carrying something for 4.5 decades. You don't need to pay the price for carrying something for 3 weeks. Your self-worth is everything, because you're everything. You are worthy just because you are here. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to trade for it. You don't have to pay for it. You don't have to barter for it. You just are worthy. So if you are having a healthier, kind of superficial, low-grade self-worth crisis, we're going to talk about that now. But if it goes beyond that and it is impacting your ability to communicate or to relate and connect with other people, please, please, please take this as my request to you to get some professional support. Either that's somebody in a religious capacity, a mentor, therapist, a counselor, any kind of doctor or professional in that way, energy healer, however you want to do it. But start doing something, because you are so valuable. And in a love relationship, we want you whole, healthy, and happy. We want you in summer. But your garden can never fully be in summer if you don't believe you deserve happiness, or if you don't believe that good things happen to people like you, or if you don't believe that you are entitled to have peace and joy and love and laughter in a relationship. Of course you do. Of course you do. You do. Let's talk about that low grade, low self-worth stuff that we all have. We all have it at some point in our professional lives, in our personal lives, in our parenting lives, in our friendships. We absolutely can feel, oh wow, I am out of my league, or I don't deserve good things, or oh, of course bad things happen, I'm stupid, or I'm anything. We all have those moments, but I don't want you to stay in those moments. So let's take a look at this slide, which talks about some active things we can do to kind of reset our low self-worth barrier and raise it up a little bit. Let's bring our low self-worth to less low. The first thing we can do is stand up to our critics. And of course, there are two main critics. The first one is our internal critics. So the little voice in the back of our head that says all those mean, nasty things you would never want to say to somebody else. So one strategy you can consider is to write a letter to yourself from that mean voice, and really listing out all of the horrible things, every awful word that your voice is saying about you. And then when you have fully written out the letter and it includes all of the information, write the name of a loved one on the top. Dear Grandma, or Dear Daughter. Your body will viscerally respond when you imagine your grandma or your daughter reading this litany of hate and self-destruction as if it's about them. You would never be able to say those things about the person that you loved, yet we say it to ourselves all the time. So standing up to our inner critic really is an opportunity for us to say thank you for trying to keep me safe, because that's what our inner critic does, is it tries to protect us from doing big things, making big mistakes, putting ourselves out there and being rejected by other people. So we acknowledge it and we thank it for showing up, and then we need to overcome it. And a way to do that is to start collecting evidence that these things are not actually true, that the things that you had written about don't actually hold water. Because all this other evidence says that you are amazing, you are kind, you are thoughtful, you are compassionate, you are a great partner, you are considerate. All the things that you know to be true, but your inner mean voice never reminds you of those things. So the first one is the inner critic. And the second one is our external critics. So if you are surrounded by people who put you down, who judge you, who criticize you, who point out all your flaws, you really need to start setting some strong boundaries, because you don't need any of that in your garden. You don't need toxic waste. You don't need toxic spillage. You don't need sharp objects. You don't need, dangerous needles. You don't need anything like that in your garden. Your garden, your choice. So decide what you want in your garden and take out everything else. Your self-worth is defined by yourself. Other people don't get to define you. They don't know your lived experience. They don't know your emotional state. They don't know your hopes and dreams. If anything, they see the tiniest sliver of one part of you. That does not make a whole thing. That's like considering an entire ocean and judging it on one drop. It's not okay. It's not okay. It's not representative of the whole. So shutting down your external critics involves putting up some boundaries. Where do you socialize? Who do you hang out with? Some famous author talked about, I can tell you about you just by knowing the 5 people you hang out with. So who are you hanging out with? Who is in your social circle, in your professional circle? Who is in your networking space? Who are you filling your life with? Because that becomes a reflection of you. And if you don't think you're worth it, your circle will also not think you're very worth it. And your circle will drag you down and keep you down. So boundaries are going to be super critical in that space. Another way that we talk about building up our self-worth is by knowing our value. So when we imagine everything that we have in our life, our house, our cars, our boats, our cabins, our books, our knickknacks, all of our clothes, all of our shoes, all of our stuff. People who have expensive stuff might feel very important, and people who have simple things might feel less important. Imagine everything had just been taken from you. Every pair of shoes, every pair of socks, all your beds in your house, all of your furniture, all of your clothes, your cars, your house, all of it gone. What's left? That's your value, is what you are left when you are standing there with no pretexts, with no accessories, with no shiny objects dangling from you. It's just you. So what are those things? What are those skills that you bring? What are those talents? What are those strengths that you bring to the world? That's where you start anchoring into your value, into your worth, is by being very crystal clear on the things that you're amazing at. Does that mean you're amazing at everything? No. Einstein had a quote that if we judged fish by their ability to climb a tree, we would think fish were stupid. No, fish are amazing swimmers. They are not tree climbers. So your genius might not look like your neighbor's genius or your best friend's genius or your partner's genius, and that's okay. We don't want a whole world of the same genius. The beauty is that everybody brings their own genius and their own flavor, and you ground yourself in your self-worth by knowing that genius, knowing that brilliance. If you need help with that, I have another book and another course, The 5 Seasons of Connection to Your Business Brilliance. And in that book, we get very deep, as you can imagine, into your business brilliance. What are those strengths? What are those opportunities for you based on who you are and your natural ability and your proclivities to doing certain things, your personality and your temperament, your interests and your hobbies. It really gives you all of your self-worth in this amazing bundle, because by the end of it, you know exactly what your strengths and powers are. Right? And you know the things that you struggle with, and you can either get better at those or decide those aren't for you and you outsource them or you delete them from your life or whatever you need to do, but you stay in your power. In this book, in this situation, we are just knowing what our power is in the first place. What is that worth? Another thing we can do is change our focus. So when your self-worth is low, we're busy thinking about all the ways that we suck. In this scenario, in this strategy, we start thinking externally about other people and their lives. When we are busy volunteering at a community organization, helping out at the food bank, sorting library books for the community library, volunteering for the Boys and Girls Club, any of these types of things, we do not have time to focus on all the ways that we aren't doing a good job. We are showing up and making the world a better place for somebody else. Maybe we're working at a cat rescue or at a horse rescue farm. Maybe we are tutoring a child, through a library program for children who can't afford to go to private tutors, right? When you focus on other people and what they don't have and how you can participate in making their experience better, your worth goes up, because again, you're feeding and you're fueling the things you're good at, right? So you are going back to the previous point of you're building on your strengths and your talents, because you're like, look at me. I can't do a lot of things and I can't do everything, but I can sit with this child and help them learn to read, which will change their life by giving the gift of literacy to a child, right? So that absolutely helps control your sadness and your devaluing, because here's evidence how valuable you are. That is an absolute stepping stone for building your self-worth. Another one I want to say is start with baby steps. When you are struggling with self-worth, when you are really pushing yourself down deeper and deeper, you can't expect to all of a sudden bounce back up. Like some kind of bouncy toy that just boings back up into perfect self-worth. Absolutely not. It's small incremental steps. And this is where evidence becomes important, because when you are struggling with feelings of low self-worth, you are going to need to document stuff. So if you have awards, they should go up on your wall. They should not be in a box in the basement. If you have your degree, it should be placed high. So every time you see it, you're reminded, wow, I did 3 years of hard work for that certificate or that degree. I got through all of these things. I won this award at my work. I earned this certificate. I completed this course. I ran the marathon. I have photos of the volunteer work that I have done where I have helped my community. I am the lead at my church, auction committee, and I help organize this auction every year. Whatever it is that you do, start small and document it, because there will be days when the winter storm blows through and you really are going to forget how awesome you are. And what's going to happen is you're going to come to your partner and you're going to feel in that winter storm, and you are going to bring that winter storm, and you might nitpick at something about them. You might point out a flaw or a problem. You might bring up an issue from 2 weeks ago that nobody even really thought of again. But in that moment of darkness and bitterness inside yourself, you want to displace it. You want it to come out of you, and you're going to put it on the next safest space, which is on your partner. And that will absolutely bring you back to winter. So baby steps are really important here. You are not going to go from low self-worth to absolute, fantastic confidence like this. It takes time. There will be ups, there will be downs. There will be ups, just like the cycles of nature, just like the 5 seasons itself. So as you're sitting in spring, going through the process to summer, you might actually meet a late storm. And, I'm Canadian, and often we would have, very harsh winters. We would have like some kind of break at the end of February, beginning of March, where it starts to get sunny and a little bit warm. And everyone would be like, oh, spring is on its way. And then boom, we would be hit by some late winter storm. And that's exactly how it is in life too. You could be going through your spring cleaning and boom, a winter storm knocks you down. You keep cleaning. It's okay. It will do that. Life will do that. We will be put in stormy situations. Maybe we create the storm and we bring it into our relationship. Maybe our partners bring it in because they're in their own personal winter and it spills over onto us. Maybe something happens outside the relationship and that storm becomes a problem for the both of us. It will happen. What we're learning here is to recognize it and come up with the steps to navigate out of it. We don't want to eliminate it. We can't eliminate it. Unless we're going to go live in a bubble somewhere and really never get sick and never hear from other people and never interact with anyone, we can't insulate ourselves from life. What we can do is have a very clear plan on spring cleaning continuously back to summer. And so that might be something that you need to write down. That might need to be pictures you put up on the wall or an infographic you make. It might be a mantra that you say, but know that when you are building your self-worth, it's really important for you to be gentle and give yourself grace and talk to your partner about it and say, look, I'm really struggling with not feeling very worthy and desirable and, smart or whatever it is that you're feeling. I'm going to try these couple of things. I would really love for you to encourage me or cheer me on or do it with me or give me space so I can find my way. Any of those things are totally fine, but being open with your needs about your self-worth and that self-worth journey is going to be super valuable for you to really feel strong, to stand up to your internal critics, your external critics, and the world around us that will absolutely keep trying to push us back into winter. Thank you for joining me for this video, and I will see you in the next part of spring. Take care.